Okay, part two. I guess I had a little technical difficulty with my computer camera here. I see it cut off right during my Starling Marte statement. Like I was saying, Starling Marte, I'm not a huge fan of the Pittsburgh offense in general. Um, Outside of Josh Bell, he doesn't. Starling Marte doesn't do enough offensively for me outside of steal bases that intrigues me. So he's never been my flavor of player. But he's been fine. He's been a solid starter for Barry. Xander Bogaerts had himself a good week for Barry as well. A 333 batting average, 379 on base percentage, 6 runs, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, and 2 errors. I beat Barry in errors 4-2, and to see Xander Bogaerts with 2 errors is the guy you can point your finger to. Marte had one, Gurriel had the other. So you can point your finger right there and say, okay, Bogaerts let me down this week. As far as that's concerned, offensively, he did great. And finally, Paul Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt hit 350 for the week with a 381 on base percentage, 3 runs, an RBI, a walk, and 5 strikeouts. The thing about Paul Goldschmidt, though, is recently he hasn't had an extra base hit since the 12th of May. And he's only had 2 multi-hit games since the 12th of May. In case you guys are wondering, that's over 2 weeks. The last time he had an extra base hit was a homer against Pittsburgh at home. And he had a double against Pittsburgh in the opening day of that series on the 9th. And he hasn't had very many extra base hits at all. He had a double on April 24th. So he's had 2 extra base hits since April 24th. That is not something you want. Now, don't get me wrong, he's got 10 homers, but I think all of those came in April. Okay, so other than the home run on May 12th, which was his last extra base hit, 9 of his 10 home runs came in April. That is not good. This guy is slumping. I mean, at least in the power department. He's still hitting 264, and he hit 350 this week. You just expect more out of the guy you drafted in the first round. Pitching-wise for Barry, Brandon Woodruff had a great start against Philadelphia this week. 8 innings, 10 strikeouts, only 1 hit, which was a solo home run to a guy in the Philly offense that I know everybody here is running to the waiver wire to pick up. I mean, this guy is absolutely smoking the ball. I'm fucking with you. His name is Andrew Knapp. When you look at that Philly lineup, you don't think Andrew Knapp scares you. And if you're going to throw a no-hitter against the Philly offense, like, you're afraid of Bryce Harper, you're afraid of Andrew McCutchen, you're afraid of Gene Segura, you're afraid of Rhys Hoskins, you're afraid of JT Realmuto. It's a stacked lineup. Andrew Knapp gets the one and only hit of a solo homer to break up a no-no? I don't know. That's disappointing. Certainly not disappointing for me, because the complete game would have been a pain in the balls. Danny Duffy also had a great week for him. 6 innings, a quality start against the Yankees. 6 innings, 4 strikeouts, a homer, a walk, a no decision because it's the Royals. That was a 1.50 ERA and a 1 WHIP. And finally, Lou Trevino. Lou Trevino gave him 4 relief appearances, 4 innings, a win, 6 strikeouts, 3 walks. For a team that had Blake Parker get the only save and not win saves this week, I can't give it to Parker with only 2 relief appearances when Trevino doubled him up. Barry falls to 13th from 12th. I improved to 2nd. We move on. We move on to alphabetically. These 2 teams are 1st and 2nd in order. It was Angels in the Trout Field, Bobby Russo against All Brawn, No Brains, Andrew Solar Greco. Andy gets the win here, 13-7. The close categories this week were Andy won by 1 loss and 1 complete game. Bobby won by 2 runs and a relief appearance. They tied in triples and saves. For Andy, He started out this. First of all, let's go over his offensive bench. It was 5 for 12, which is a 417 batting average, 2 runs, a homer, 3 RBIs, and 3 strikeouts. None of that was really. I mean, the runs are kind of frustrating because he lost by 2 runs. Otherwise, nothing would have affected anything. The big thing that I noticed early on is on Tuesday, Andy's stocked up on starting pitchers, and by the time the day was over, he had 9 starters going, or 9 pitchers appeared in a game for Andy's team on Tuesday. And it basically buried Bobby as far as innings and strikeouts would be concerned. It's no surprise that Bobby lost innings by 30-ish and lost strikeouts by 40-ish. Those 9 pitchers that threw for Andy that day threw to a 3.35 ERA, 9 home runs, which certainly set him back, but 41 strikeouts over 37 and 2/3 innings with a 4-0 record. So the 41 strikeouts just on Tuesday were 2 less than Bobby had all week. The 37 and 2/3 innings pitched were 2 less than Bobby had all week. The 4-0 record would have won wins and losses alone. Andy went for the jugular early, and it paid off. And well done, sir. I tip my cap to you. He dropped Jesus Aguilar. I guess it's time to give up on this guy. It's Memorial Day. Aguilar is not performing the way one would have expected. He didn't even perform. He didn't even appear for Andy this week. So he's just been riding the bench. And, you know, it's disappointing because that guy was one of the breakout players last year. You know, he came into this season kind of in that third tier first baseman around guys like Matt Olson and Jose Abreu and guys like that. And to see him still hitting 195, he's still only got those 3 homers that he hit in back-to-back games, you know, late April, early May. You know, it's time to move on from this guy. And I think the Brewers are doing the same. They're finding a lot of time at first base for I was going to say Marcus Thames, but it's Eric Thames. Otherwise, you know, nothing too exciting. Oscar Mercado was an interesting drop as well. I guess you just don't have the room in the outfield for him. But Mercado is like a lone bright spot of Cleveland's outfield, which has been absolutely dreadful. I mean, I picked up Jordan Luplow this week because he was hitting 5th. You know, that outfield is atrocious. And why they still haven't made a deal with San Diego for an outfielder, I don't know. For Bobby Roos, it was 20 for 63 on the bench. That's a 317 batting average. 10 runs, 4 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, a steal, 6 walks, 9 strikeouts, and 2 errors. This was an interesting week for Bobby, as every time I turned around, he was leaving stats on the bench, and it wasn't just like somebody's 1 for 4. It wasn't just, you know, a 1 for 4 with a walk, like 1 for 3 with a walk. It wasn't like that. On Wednesday, Brett Gardner went 3 for 4 with 3 doubles, a run, and a walk on the bench, and Mike Trout's game got rained out. I know. I dealt with it too. Mike Trout's rain out, the Angels and Twins got rained out very late. And you wouldn't expect it because it's Southern California and they don't get rained out very often down there. But that's incredibly frustrating to see, especially considering he lost doubles by 4. And Brett Gardner had 3 of them. Disappointing. As well, on Friday, Adam Jones went 4 for 5 with 3 runs, a homer, and 3 RBIs on the bench, and Lorenzo Cain went 0 for 4 in center. Lorenzo Cain didn't exactly have himself a great week. He hit 188 for the week. He only had 1 run and a double and a walk and 2 strikeouts. He had a 235 on base percentage. I think if you see a guy who's struggling all week, you know, against teams like Cincinnati and Philly, you try to get that guy out of the lineup. And Adam Jones is a guy that nobody picked up, like no team picked up until very late in the offseason. And the Diamondbacks have been reaping the rewards of him. You know, he's actually hitting better than Lorenzo Cain across any metric that isn't stolen bases. You know, Lorenzo Cain has a 261 average, 4 homers, 19 RBIs, and 5 steals. Adam Jones has a 281 average, 10 homers, 33 RBIs, and a steal. You know, by every metric you want to look at, Adam Jones is a better player this year so far. Jonathan Lucroy also went 2 for 4 with a homer on his bench, and Danny Jansen went 0 for 3. I understand why Bobby picked up Danny Jansen back on the 12th. You know, he drafted him in the 10th round, dropped him and picked him back up. Okay. So Bobby has been riding this Danny Jansen train since the beginning. Good on him for sticking by it, but the guy hit 059 this week, and the guy's hitting 172 on the season. I was watching a Toronto Blue Jays game recently, and they were saying that perhaps Danny Jansen has spent too much time, and not that this is a bad thing. I mean, it is when you look at how bad he's performing offensively, but he's spent a lot of time with his pitchers and preparing his pitchers for games. And I guess that's paid off when you look at guys like Marcus Stroman, and to a lesser extent, oh God, his name escapes me. Anyway, it hurts to see a rookie catcher struggling with the bat as much as he is, because catcher is such a shallow position, and you put your faith into a young kid who got the keys to the kingdom because they traded away Russell Martin, and he's hitting 170 on Memorial Day. I know the Blue Jays are rebuilding, and they're going to have a ton of patience with this kid. I just don't know as a fantasy owner if you can continue to have this kind of patience with this kid. On Saturday, Brett Gardner went 4 for 9 in a doubleheader with a triple. Lorenzo Cain, again, over 4 in center field. The triple hurts especially because they tied in that category. Again, if you're seeing struggling guys like Lorenzo Cain and Danny Jansen, you get them out of the lineup. I don't see, Jurickson Profar hit 174 on Bobby's team. You can't play guys who are hitting sub 200. You just can't and expect to win. Bobby hit 231 for the week, but yet he had Josh Bell hit 375 and Ketel Marte hit 407, and Jonathan Lucroy, for his credit, went 333. You keep the guy. Mike Trout only hit 238, but if you were to have a bunch of guys hitting 238 and those guys hitting 375 and 400, you would have a really great batting average. Key players this week for each team. We'll start with Andy, who won the week. We'll go to Rafael Devers first, as Devers hit 481 with a 500 on base percentage, 8 runs, 2 doubles, 4 homers, 8 RBIs, 2 steals, a walk, 3 strikeouts. Devers, I don't think will ever be what we actually expected him to be. He came into the league, and I remember distinctly, like one of the first games he had, he took Aroldis Chapman yard, lefty on lefty at 103 or 104 miles an hour in Yankee Stadium. And everybody was jumping all over this kid last year. Like, he is, the next great third baseman in Major League Baseball. And it just hasn't come to fruition. Now, that's not to say that he's not doing well this year. He is. He's been fantastic. He's hitting 330, 7 homers, 7 steals, and 30 RBIs. This could be the breakout season. He's been great. And it's no wonder that Andy traded for him. Nomar Mazara had a great week. 273 average, 4 runs, 4 doubles, 2 RBIs, a steal, and 4 strikeouts. Andy won doubles. That's why I gave it to Mazara here with his 4 doubles. This is a guy you can peg for 20 homers every year. That's it. No more, no less. 20 homers exactly. For 3 years straight, Nomar Mazara has hit exactly 20 home runs. Bank on it. And for a guy that was drafted in the 10th round as, a starting right fielder on a team, you'll take 20 homers into 280 average. All day. Corey Seager also had a good week. 300 average, 417 on base, 5 runs, a double, a homer, 5 RBIs, a stolen base, 3 walks, and 2 strikeouts. Corey Seager's having a decent bounce back season. He's only hitting 238, but I think he's still getting his legs underneath him after missing all of last year with Tommy John. Pitching wise for Andy, it was Patrick Corbin, 14 innings, 12 strikeouts, a win, a loss, and a complete game. The big game was indeed the complete game shutout against Miami. He only had 5 strikeouts, but I mean, come on, it's a complete game. It was against Miami, who's virtually a quad A team, but they're still professional hitters. They're still major leaguers. You have to go out there and perform against him, and Corbin did so. He's been everything you could have asked for in Washington, a 2.85 ERA, 103 whip, and 81 strikeouts over 72 and 2/3. He slots in on Andy's team as a very solid number 2 behind Verlander, who I'll get to in a minute. But this pitching staff is deep. It's Verlander, it's Corbin, it's Wheeler, it's Herman, it's Turnbull, it's Bassett, it's Strahm. That is a nice rotation. Credit to you, sir. Justin Verlander was another good one this week. Got 15 innings, a win, a loss, 2 homers, a walk, 18 strikeouts. It's a 2.40 ERA with a .53 whip. The starts were against the White Sox and Boston. The loss came to Boston. Still 6 strikeouts and over 7 innings. You know, his team lost 4-1. I think that was a Chris Sale start, if I was right. No, it was Eduardo Rodriguez's start that I benched him for. So, go figure. You know, you figure that Verlander should beat Eduardo Rodriguez every time out. Just not this time. And finally, Edwin Diaz. Edwin Diaz gave him 3 saves over 4 1/3, 8 strikeouts, 5 relief appearances. He won. They tied in saves, and Andy lost relief appearances by 1, but it's not because of Edwin Diaz, obviously. For Bobby, it was a great week from Ketel Marte, like I mentioned earlier. 407 average, 448 on base, 8 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 3 homers, 6 RBIs, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. Ketel Marte has been a really bright spot for the Diamondbacks, and Bobby has both really bright spots for the Diamondbacks in Marte and Adam Jones. 12 homers and 37 RBIs on the season. You know, last year I wouldn't say I was really high on this kid, but he was one of the interesting guys that I looked at last season, and he didn't have a bad year. He just didn't put up the numbers I anticipated. I expected him to be like a 15-15 guy. He hit 14 homers. He scored 68 runs. He drove in 59, and he only had 6 steals. This year, he's already got 12 homers, which is almost all of last season. He's got 37 RBIs, which nearly matches all of last season, and he's almost halfway to his run total last year. This guy's going to have a career year. He is definitely part of the Diamondbacks rebuilding process, and Bobby's reaping the rewards of it. Will Myers had a good week as well. Maybe not in the average category, only hit 235, but he had a 409 on base, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, and 5 runs scored. Will Myers may end up being the odd man out in that outfield when all is said and done. I know they like Hunter Renfroe. I know they love Franmil Reyes down there. And Manny Margot is just the better center field option. So for a guy who can play third base, the left side of that infield is kind of spoken for, and first base is already spoken for with a big contract to Eric Hosmer. I could see Will Myers being the guy who gets traded, and if it's me and I'm the GM of San Diego, I am calling up the Indians right now and going, hey, I've got this outfielder who could potentially hit you 25 homers, steal you 15 bases, drive in anywhere from 75 to 100 runs, depending on where you hit him in the lineup. All I'm looking for is a Shane Bieber. Makes sense to me. Josh Bell's an MVP candidate this year, and I'll say it now on Memorial Day weekend. Josh Bell is an MVP candidate, and I don't think very many people are talking about him. He's hit 339 this year. He's hit 16 home runs. He's driven in 47 RBIs. He hit 375 this week with a 423 on base percentage, 7 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Look, Pittsburgh is not good. They're not a good team. And with Jameson Taillon going down, and they're just not, and the backfiring of the Chris Archer trade, they're just not a good team. But Josh Bell is putting up an MVP season. Granted, he's going to get buried underneath the Cody Bellinger and Christian Yelich race, but he definitely deserves to be in the conversation. Pitching-wise for Bobby, Chris Davinsky gave him a great week. 3 relief appearances, 4 strikeouts, an 0.67 whip, and no earned runs. Bobby pitched to a 7.26 ERA this week, so it's not exactly easy to find guys who pitched well. Tyler Skaggs gave him a good start, 5 2/3, 7 strikeouts, no earned. And Max Fried gave him a decent start. It was a quality start, 6 innings, a win, 5 strikeouts, 2 earned. Bobby falls to 5th from 4th. Andy moves from 9th to 8th. And we move on. We move on to witness protection. Jason Ashby, who took on Kershaw for pass over Mike Sherman. It was number 6 versus number 13, and Jason, I don't know, I was still trying to rack my brain and find out exactly what happened on Sunday. I did. Because coming into Sunday, this was a really competitive matchup. It was 11-10. And as it should be. I mean, it's the bigs. There's so many great managers here that even if you're in 13th place, you can take down the top guy. You can take down the top guy from 16th place on any given week. You just need to outmanage him. And to go from 11-10 to 16-5, that is a 5-category swing late. I found all 5 of them. We'll get to that in a minute. For Jason, it was a very, very stingy week on his bench. He went 3 for 19. That's a 158 batting average. 3 runs, 2 doubles, an RBI, 4 walks, 8 strikeouts, and an error. As far as moves are concerned, nothing stuck out to me. Nothing was out of the ordinary. You picked up Renato Nunez. I hope that guy does well for you. I'm still surprised to see that guy getting dropped in this league because he was incredibly hot when Bobby dropped him earlier this year. Jason just had himself a good week. There's not a whole lot I can say. Close categories this week. I didn't even touch on that. Jason won by an RBI, a win, a save, and a home run. Mike's wins were not close. The 5 categories he won were not close, and they did not tie in anything other than complete games. For Mike Sherman, he went 3 for 11 on his bench. That's a 273 average, 4 runs, a homer, 3 RBI. Looks like 4 walks and 4 strikeouts. On Tuesday, Derek Dietrich went 2 for 3 with a home run on the bench, and Jeff McNeil did not play at third base. He could have moved Manny Machado to third base, Gleyber Torres to shortstop, and Dietrich at second. And that's initially how I wrote it out. And then I looked at the start times of all the games, and it just never would have worked. Dietrich started at 110. San Diego started at 340. The Mets and Nationals didn't start until 7:10. There was no way he would have known that McNeil wasn't going to play. So there you go. You're kind of stuck with a homer on the bench. It happens. Drops and adds this week. So he got off the Willie Calhoun train because of the quad injury and jumped on the Kevin Cron train. Okay, very well. Nothing spectacular. We'll get to key players and then I'll get to what happened on Sunday. Key players for Jason. Anthony Rendon is also having an MVP season, or at least he should be. He definitely deserves to have some talk. He's hitting .320 on the season, .452 on base percentage, 8 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 6 walks, and 3 strikeouts. His games were against the Mets and the Marlins this week. 2 teams that on paper he should be beating up on. but his team is just not good around him. And for Jason, he's kind of built his team around the Nationals in Turner and Rendon and Robles. So he's going to go as they go. And, you know, he was 6th coming into this week. He's 6th now. I don't know. I don't think the Nationals are a good team. I don't think they are going to win the East by any means. I don't think that they are. I don't even think they're going to finish 500. But you've got 3 of the best players on that team, and you know you add Max Scherzer. You've really hedged your bet with the Nationals, who are a good regular season team and have been the last few years. I just don't think that pays off this year. We move on to Austin Meadows was good this week. 375 average, 400 on base percentage, 3 runs, 3 doubles, a homer, 4 RBIs, and a steal with 6 strikeouts. This is the key. I mean, take your pick. It's either him or oh my God, I'm brain farting again. You know, he was one of the 2 pieces that Tampa got for the Chris Archer deal, and the kid's absolutely paid off. You know, this season he's hitting 341 with 10 homers and 27 RBIs. Homers are up across the board. I recognize that. But this kid is on pace for 25 homers this year. Amazing. And Whit Merrifield had a great week for him. 318 average, 375 on base, 4 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 5 RBIs, a steal, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. Jason crushed it in steals, as his team should. Any team with Whit Merrifield and Trey Turner and now Nick Senzel, and apparently Andrew Benintendi decided to jump in with 3 steals this week, and Victor Robles and Nicky Lopez. He should never lose steals, ever. Pitching wise for Jason, Max Scherzer had a great week. 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, 2 walks, 1 whip, no earned runs. The start was against against the Mets, because of course it was. Jake Odorizzi had a good week as well. A 2-start week, 10 and a third, a win, 15 strikeouts and 3 walks, no earned, an 0.68 ERA. The starts were against the White Sox and the Angels respectively. The better start was the win against the White Sox, where he had 9 strikeouts over 5 and a third. And finally, Kirby Yates. Kirby Yates has been the best closer in baseball this year, and I don't think it's even close. You know, a 1.13 ERA, an 0.96 whip, 20 saves over 24 innings, and 44 strikeouts. That's gross. That is gross. You know, 3 relief appearances this week. He's single-handedly won. Well, didn't single-handedly, but Jason won saves, so it certainly helped him this week. For Mike Sherman, Gleyber Torres does really well against Baltimore, and that's about it. And this week, he played Baltimore. He hit 269, 345 on base, 5 homers, 8 RBIs, 7 runs scored. You know, he hit 4 homers against Baltimore over 3 games set. He didn't play the 4th game. And then another home run against Kansas City on Saturday. Wilson Ramos finally woke up, 455 average, 556 on base, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, 5 walks, 4 strikeouts, and 9 runs. And finally, Ronald Acuna, 258 average, 343 on base, 6 runs, a double, 2 homers, 2 RBIs, a stolen base, 4 walks, and 11 strikeouts. The strikeouts you don't like to see, but he's a young kid. He's going to strike out a lot. Pitching-wise, we'll go to Mike Fiers, coming off of his complete game no-hitter on the 7th. He's pitched pretty well. He's had a 5-inning start against Seattle, a suspended start against Detroit, and now this week he gives you 6 innings, a quality start of only 3 earned, 2 homers, 3 strikeouts, and a win against Seattle. Clayton Kershaw, again, who may very well be the pitching steal of the year this year. Kershaw had a fantastic start as well. 6 1/3. Looks like 2 earned runs, 8 strikeouts in Tampa. And finally, German Marquez, 14 1/3, 11 strikeouts, a 2.51 ERA, an 0.84 WHIP, and a win. The thing about Marquez, especially, like you look at this week, he had a 2-start week. One was on the road and one was at home. The start on the road was against Pittsburgh. The start at home was against Baltimore. Without looking, which do you think was the better start? The start against Pittsburgh was the better start. It was 8 innings, shutout ball, 7 strikeouts, and the win. The start at home against Baltimore was 6 1/3. Looks like 4 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, and a walk. Marquez is a good pitcher, is the end of that sentence. When you delve deeper into who German Marquez is as a pitcher, he is hampered by his home ballpark. If you look at his numbers, if you only pitch him on the road, he's a top 15 pitcher. If you only pitch him at home, he's not in the top 50. He's a great number 3, and that's kind of where he slots in this rotation behind Carrasco and Kershaw. But he's going to get blown up, and he's going to get blown up at home. And if I were a Marquez owner, I would be afraid that I would need to count on him late in the season or in the playoffs, and his start were at home against the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, the Cardinals. You just don't want to see that. You don't want to see that on your schedule, and absolutely need that start to be good. I said we'd highlight Sunday. So these two guys came into Sunday with, I think it was Jason leading 11-10. Yes, Jason was leading 11-10. Offensively, Jason hit 341 with a 391 on-base percentage. He scored 9 runs, hit 2 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 9 RBIs, 2 steals, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, and had an error. Mike hit 241, that's 100 points less, with a 290 on-base percentage, 100 points less. 3 runs, a home run, 4 RBIs, 2 walks, and 12 strikeouts. Jason was able to flip RBIs, which he won by 1. Mike lost strikeouts that he lost by 4. And Jason came back in batting average and on-base percentage because of that 100-point difference on that day. That is a 4-category swing in one day on Sunday. But I said there were 5. Pitching categories. Jason went 22 1/3. He went 3-1 with a save, 9 walks, 21 strikeouts, a 2.01 ERA, a 1.30 WHIP, and 3 relief appearances. Mike went 10 1/3, a save, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts, an 8.71 ERA, and a 1.94 WHIP. And Jason, with those 3 wins, flipped wins. Guys, that's how you do it on Sunday. You can have a close matchup, and just by managing the right way, or just having one of your team, just having your offense break out for one day, or having a good day on the mound, you can swing a category. You can swing 5. Jason jumps to 6th. He actually stays at 6th, and Mike falls to 15th overall. We move on. We move on to our commissioner, Ben. We met on Pinder Nisman against Chris Jose Told a Story Levy. This was another very close matchup. Back and forth for most of the week. Only 1 or 2 categories for most of the week. And Ben gets the win 12-9 in the end. Close categories this week. Ben won by an error, a win, and 2 losses. Chris did not win any of his categories close, and they tied in triples. For Benny, it was 12 for 41 on the bench. That's a 293 batting average, 4 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 9 RBIs, 3 walks, 8 strikeouts, and an error. Now, a lot of those numbers are skewed, right? Because on Sunday, Ben went 8 for 24 with 3 runs, a double, a triple, a homer, 5 RBIs, 5 strikeouts, and an error on his bench. But he benched the vast majority of his team. He only played 3 players, which was Carlos Santana, Jason Kipnis, and Avisail Garcia. I find those 3 playings interesting. I think that was the first game to play. So if that's the reason, then I don't need an answer. But Ben, I would love to hear why those 3 guys. And not, I don't know, Joey Votto or Trey Mancini. I know Trey Mancini hit a triple. So those guys is the question. Why those 3 guys and not the rest? By Wednesday, it was tied 10-10. And Ben hit me with a text message and said that he felt like he needed to bench Steven Matz for the start on Wednesday because the Mets had already taken the first 3 games in a 4-game set against the Nationals, and Matz was hitting the mound. So he says it's really hard to sweep 4 games against a team. There's no way that Matz is going to win this game. I'm going to bench him, and I will feel good about it even if he pitches well. As well, he started getting the feeling that Freddie Galvis was going to have an error. I made a note of it. I said, Ben's only at 9 innings pitched for the week, and he's benching a starter. And he's going to bench Freddie Galvis, who's, not for nothing, doing fairly well this year. You know, he's not lighting the world on fire. He's only hitting 263, but he's just a solid starter, and he gets on base. So, the next day, Steven Matz goes 6 innings, 1 earned, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks, and a no decision. Galvis does an error. Galvis didn't error the rest of the week. And Ben benched Kyle Gibson and Kyle Freeland on Saturday. Freeland was a good bench. Gibson was 7 innings, 9 strikeouts, and a win. Ben ends up winning 12-9. He managed the hell out of this thing. He did an incredible job. And it's a credit to him and how well he does in this league. His moves this week, again, he grabbed Scott Oberg out from underneath me. Fuck you, Ben. He added 4 players on Monday in Inciarte, Wilkerson, Parra, and Kendrys Morales. He dropped Clint Frazier, which might hurt in the long run. I mean, I know he saw that the writing was on the wall, like I said earlier, about these guys coming back, and he needed to play well in order to not get sent down to the minors. I personally probably would have waited it out until he either turned it around like he did this week, or he got sent down. For Chris, he went 5 for 34 on his bench. That's a 147 batting average, 4 runs, 2 doubles, 2 walks, and 13 strikeouts with an error. It looks like Chris was answering Ben's benching of Steven Matz early, because Tuesday he had 8 pitchers go, but he had a 6.53 ERA and 18 strikeouts over 20 2/3 with 5 relief appearances. That's ugly, and that's a good way to get yourself buried early. He did get the win in strikeouts and innings pitched. And look, I know that strategy. I play that strategy. You know, you try to get relief appearances, you get strikeouts and innings, and you try to get as many wins as you can. You know, I have played that strategy for years. It's paid off. It didn't pay off this week for Chris. Specifically, Friday, Ronaldo Lopez went 3 2/3, a 1964 ERA. That's not the year anybody was born. I mean, I'm sure people were born in 1964. Not anybody I can think of right now. 3 2/3, a loss, 3 homers, 3 strikeouts, and 2 walks. I believe the I'm just going to find out who the start was against. The start was against Minnesota in Minnesota. And again, I think I get the feeling like a lot of you guys are sleeping on Minnesota when you're streaming your pitchers. You know, Minnesota is the best team in the AL, question mark? And for you guys to run Ronaldo Lopez out against them, I mean, at that point, just go pick up Ivan Nova. He does well against good teams and does shit against shit teams. I don't understand Ivan Nova. Anyway, he did waste 2 moves. Okay. So Chris on the 25th dropped Ronaldo Lopez after that garbage start. Dropped Michael Wacha for Touki Toussaint. Dropped Taylor Clark for Jeurys Familia, and then turned around and immediately dropped Jeurys Familia for Junior Guerra. Went throughout his day, did another few moves, dropped Dexter Fowler, picked up AJ Minter and put him in the NA slot, and then picked up Jeurys Familia again. You remember a few weeks back when I had that rant about roster moves and making sure that you're picking up the guy you want and making sure he's playing? And then we had the David Bodie situation with Frank. This is exactly the same thing. You basically flipped your entire bullpen and double wasted Jeurys Familia, who only got you 1 relief appearance. He got you 2/3 of an inning. Now, he struck out both guys for that 2/3, but come on, man. We only get 13. And that was... It was like move number 9. I'm going to waste these things. Key players this week for Ben. For Benji, it was Avisail Garcia. 238 average, 304 on base, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 3 big stolen bases. I didn't know Garcia had that kind of speed. Like, he's got 6 on the season. I didn't know he did that. Like, wasn't a part of his game I even knew about. Carlos Santana had a good week as well. 273 average, 467 on base percentage, because all that dude does is walk. He had 8 walks this week, 2 homers, 2 RBIs, 4 runs, and 2 doubles. And finally, Trey Mancini, triple on the bench withstanding. Still hit 304 with a 370 on base, 3 runs, 3 doubles, 3 RBIs, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Pitching-wise, it's the bullpen again that's going to carry Ben. It's Aroldis Chapman with 3 relief appearances, all saves, 5 strikeouts. Scott Oberg, who we picked up, 2 relief appearances, 2 wins, 2 2/3, 3 strikeouts. And to throw a starter in there, his best start was from Mike Foltynewicz, 6 innings, a win, 7 strikeouts, shutout ball. That game came in St. Louis. You know, he's pitched to a 5.67 ERA, but his last 2 starts have been quality starts against quality teams in Milwaukee and St. Louis. I think somebody gave up on him too early. I'm not going to say who it is, but I think you know who it is. For Chris, Hunter Pence, 346 on base, no walks, same on base percentage. 7 runs, 2 doubles, 3 homers, 7 RBIs. I had him. I dropped him. I thought he was getting cold. I shouldn't have. It's Hunter Pence, though. How long can this actually last? Trevor Story, 296 average, 387 on base, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, 7 runs scored, a double, 4 walks, 12 strikeouts. That's kind of ugly, but the 3 homers is nice. And finally, Eduardo Escobar, the third, I would say, of 4 bright spots for the Arizona Diamondbacks this year. Eduardo Escobar, 321 average, no walks, same on base percentage, 5 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 8 RBIs, and 5 strikeouts. Escobar is an incredibly talented third baseman. It's surprising that the Twins couldn't find a spot for this guy on the roster, so they shoved him off to Arizona. You know, he's hitting 286. He's got 12 homers and almost 40 RBIs. He's just a solid dude. Solid dude. Pitching-wise, Lucas Giolito. So Lucas Giolito threw a complete game shutout against Houston. If ever there's a coming out party for a top prospect, this was it. This past, 2 weeks, the dude figured something out, turned this around, and has turned into a really good pitcher all of a sudden. His last 4 starts, he's given up 2 earned runs over 28 and a third innings. He's got 29 strikeouts over that period. Granted, he's had 2 complete games. One was rain shortened, but this one was legit. This one was against a Houston lineup, and it's not the Houston lineup that we're used to. I'll admit that. It was Bregman was DHing. So the lineup was Reddick, Bregman, Brantley, Correa, Gurriel, Diaz, Kemp, Stassi, and Marisnick. So there's no George Springer. There's no Jose Altuve. And, but there's still a lot of good hitters in this lineup. Reddick's hitting 330. Brantley's hitting 330. Correa's hitting 290. There's good hitters in this lineup. And he just mowed them down. 9 strikeouts, 9 innings. He's got a 2.77 ERA right now. Spoiler alert, this is one of the two pitching performances of the week. David Price, 5 2/3, shutout ball, 5 strikeouts. He got the win. The start was against Toronto. He did get pulled from the Houston start. He was supposed to have a 2-start week. So it was 5 innings against Toronto and a win. And then he was supposed to start a second game against Houston and got pulled after two-thirds of an inning with an injury. So that sucks. And finally, Steven Strasburg. Strasburg, 7 innings, 5 strikeouts. The start was against the Mets. He gave up 2 earned. He got a no decision because Washington is bad this year. Ben improves. Ben holds his ground at 7th place. Chris holds his ground in 10th place. It was a good matchup. It was a very good matchup, back and forth. Like I said, it was really close. 10-10, 10-9, and 11-9 for the majority of the week. And Ben I truthfully believe Ben outmanaged the last few days of this and got the wins where he needed them in order to take the W. We move on. We move on to the lowest scoring matchup this week. Ben's roommate's team, James Santangelo, took on Ben's brother, Bumpin' Ugla's Ari Nisman. Ari took down the win here, 9-8. Doesn't get him out of the basement yet, but it is a good win considering the start to the week this was. Close categories this week. Ari wins by a double, 2 homers, and 2 relief appearances. James wins by a triple and a steal. They tied in runs, errors, wins, and losses. For Ari, he went 17 for 60 on the bench. That's a 283 batting average, 4 runs, 5 doubles, 2 homers, 10 RBIs, 8 walks, 6 strikeouts, and an error. The only thing that stuck out to me, all of the moves made sense, all of the benchings made sense. You run into sometimes where you just can't get a dude in a lineup, and it doesn't make any sense to bench the guy that you would have him in the lineup for. The thing that really sucked was on Wednesday, Brian Reynolds came in and hit a 3-run homer, a pinch hitting. That, I actually watched that live because it was against Colorado in Pittsburgh, and Carlos Estevez was on the mound, and that was the first of 3 homers he gave up that day, or 4 homers he gave up that day. Thank you. Appreciate that. Ari didn't make too many moves this week. He gave up on Dansby Swanson, it looks like. He got Jesse Chavez in for a relief appearance. It certainly helped him win as he won that by 2. For James, 11 for 28 on the bench. That's a 393 batting average, 3 runs, a homer, 3 RBIs, a walk, 3 strikeouts, and an error. The big one is Matt Carpenter on the bench on Thursday or Friday. 2 for 4 with a homer, an RBI, a run, and a strikeout on the bench. Tyler White was over 3 at first base. Is Tyler White that good? No, he's not. What are you doing starting Tyler White at first base? He's hitting 232, with a homer and 7 RBIs. He starts about every other day. What are you doing? Get somebody else in the lineup. You've got Daniel Murphy, and you've got Matt Carpenter, and you've got Brandon Belt, all first base eligible, and you're starting Tyler White? Stop it. James made the first move since the 11th of May by dropping Fernando Rodney. Are we not paying attention? Are we not playing the game? Key players this week for Ari. I've said this before. I'll say it again. You can tell how good Ari is going to be in a week by how many games Colorado plays at home. This week, Colorado played, I think it was 4 games at home? 3 games at home. It was all against Baltimore. Nolan Arenado, just in those 3 games, had 4 homers and 9 RBIs. Nolan Arenado for the week hit .538 with a .556 on-base percentage, 7 runs, 2 doubles, the 4 homers and 9 RBIs I mentioned, a walk and 2 strikeouts. Nolan Arenado is unstoppable at home and is just human on the road. Ian Desmond also had a big week. A .286 average, 400 on base, 4 runs, 3 doubles, an RBI, 4 walks, and 8 strikeouts. And JT Realmuto had a great week for him. .259 average, 286 on base, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, 4 runs, a double, 2 steals, a walk, and 7 strikeouts. Pitching-wise, Sergio Romo had a good week. 3 relief appearances, 2 saves, nothing earned, 3 strikeouts. Walker Buehler finally had a good start, 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, 1 earned run. He's had it rough. Lately, he's been turning it around. Like, since the calendar turned to May, he's done really well. 4 starts, all of 6 innings or more, all of 6 strikeouts or more, and all of 3 earned runs or less. 2-1 average over, or 2-1 record over that time. And finally, Ryan Weber had a 6 inning start for Boston. 6 innings, a win, 4 strikeouts, 1 earned. The start came in Toronto. It was a good, solid win for him, and certainly helped Ari to the 3-1 record and lower his ERA to 2.08. Ari finally put together a good pitching week against a guy who put together a good pitching week. You know, it's always Ari's blowing his ERA out the door, or he's doing really well and his opponent blows the doors off of him. You know, for James, offensively, it was Daniel Murphy, a .381 average, .435 on base percentage, 2 runs, a double, a triple, a homer, and 5 RBIs, 2 walks, no strikeouts, and an error. Marcus Semien hit .304 with a .407 on base, 6 runs, 2 doubles, 2 steals, 4 walks, and a strikeout. And David Dahl, who hit .364, .417 on base, 5 runs, 2 doubles, an RBI, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. Again, David Dahl is an interesting player because, again, the home road splits are enormous. It's that way for just about everybody in Colorado. And David Dahl doesn't play every day. It's interesting. You'd think that David Dahl would be an everyday player, but he doesn't start against lefties. Daniel Murphy doesn't start against some lefties. Like, it's frustrating to see sometimes because both of those guys will sit the same games. In any event, pitching-wise, it was Jake Arrieta, 14 innings. Looks like 2 earned runs in that time, 12 strikeouts, 3 walks. It's a 1.93 ERA and a 1.14 WHIP. Luke Weaver, who just hit the DL with a forearm injury, and that doesn't sound good, did have a nice week, 11 innings, a win, a loss, 13 strikeouts, and it looks like 3 earned runs over that time. And finally, Joey Lucchesi, 6 2/3, 11 strikeouts, a 4.05 ERA. The reason I highlight him is because James won strikeouts. This week was interesting. James led it for very, very late. He led it 11-8 on Friday and 10-9 on Saturday. And Ari just made the comeback late to make it 8-9. Ari does not dig himself out of the basement, but James falls from 8th to 9th. And finally, the final matchup of the week is new team name Korean Barbecue, Frank Bucco, taking on, well, I'll be damned, Josh Haber. It was number 11 versus number 15. Close categories this week. Josh won saves by 1 and innings by an inning and a third. Frank did not win anything relatively close. And the ties were in runs and triples. The thing about this matchup, by the way, Josh won 12-7. I don't think I ever said that. The matchup was very close until Friday. And as soon as Friday hit, Josh just incrementally got further and further away. And I believe I was talking to Frank. It was either on Thursday or Friday. And it was a close matchup. I think it was Thursday because it was 9-8 and he was leading. And he says, I think I'm going to get this one. I think I'm going to win this one. I've lost 4 in a row. I need to get a win here. I think I'm going to win it close. And in the back of my head, I was thinking, I don't know, man. It's going to be pretty close, but I could see Josh taking down this W. And here it is. Let's touch on Josh's team first. 12 for 46 on the bench. That's a 261 batting average. 7 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 7 RBIs, 5 walks, 14 strikeouts, and an error. That's a lot of stuff left on the bench, but not a single one of it. Like the runs is certainly the one that hurts considering they were tied. But the rest kind of inconsequential. The 2 doubles, he lost by 3. The homers, he lost the 1 homer he lost by 3. The 7 RBIs, he lost by 9. He won walks, he won strikeouts, he won errors. So none of that is that big a deal. For Frank, he went 16 for 50. That's a 320 batting average, 8 runs, 2 doubles, 6 homers, 14 RBIs, 3 walks, 17 strikeouts, and 2 errors. So, okay. Tuesday, Austin Riley was on the bench with a homer, 3 RBIs, and 2 runs scored. Scope's game got postponed. He could have moved He could have moved Danny Santana from utility to second base and Riley in, and he was facing Jeff Samardzija. I know. I said it before. I know that the Twins game got canceled late. I just question if you're that high on Austin Riley, why are you benching him against Jeff Samardzija? This game, if I remember correctly, if I'm looking at the right team, this game was the second game of the four game set in San Francisco. And he had gone 1 for 4 in the first game, which was against Sean Anderson. It was not Madison Bumgarner, right? If it was Madison Bumgarner, I would do the same thing. But it's Jeff Samardzija, man. Jeff Samardzija is not good. He hasn't been good for years. Moving to Friday, Domingo Santana went 3 for 5 with a double and an RBI on the bench. Nick Castellanos went 2 for 5 with a double and an RBI on the bench. JD Martinez went 0 for 3 in right field, and Rowdy Tellez went 0 for 4 at the utility spot. With so many outfield options, it's going to be difficult to make the right decision every day. Somebody's going to hit, somebody's not. And if that guy's in your lineup who's hitting and the guy who's not is on your bench, great. But the odds are not in your favor that when you're carrying this many similarly positioned players like we talked about, it's hard to make that decision day in and day out. For Frank's roster moves this week, it looks like he wasted a roster move on Randall Grichuk because he wasn't starting and he picked him up early. So he picked up Jackie Bradley Jr. and it paid off. Jackie Bradley went 2 for 4 for a guy who's hitting, I don't know, what, 160 something? Yeah, 163. To have a 2 for 4 day is pretty friggin' huge. He made the trade midweek for... So first of all, he traded Jose Ramirez for Julio Teheran and Jonathan Scope early. And then 2 days later did the John Lester and Caleb Smith for Chris Bryant trade. Let me get into that trade because I touched on why I thought it was a good idea for the other manager to pick up Caleb Smith and John Lester. I did not touch on the Chris Bryant end of it. And Frank, you and I have talked about this, so I'm not saying anything that I haven't said to Frank already. I get it. It's Chris Bryant. It is name value, right? Chris Bryant's a former MVP. He's a former Rookie of the Year. He's a great player. Chris Bryant is having a good year. 283, 12 homers, 34 RBIs. He's hitting right in the middle of that Cubs lineup. He's everything you want when you trade for him. And Caleb Smith was picked up off the waiver wire. John Lester was traded for in the trade with Ben. He didn't give up a ton of value for him. So I understand that this move is to get a name player in the top. I think Bryant was drafted in the second round. Yeah, you're getting a second round talent 2 days after trading away a first round talent for 2 pitchers who do not equal up to that value in draft capital. Granted, Caleb Smith was arguably his second best pitcher, and John Lester was his third best pitcher. But you're getting back, again, a top 2 round bat. The problem I have with this, and I said this to Frank, was the positions that Chris Bryant plays, you already have guys that you believe in. Chris Bryant's eligible at third, left, and right. Well, JD Martinez plays left and right. Nick Castellanos plays right field. Domingo Santana plays left and right. Mitch Haniger plays center and right. Austin Riley plays third and left. So that's 6 guys right there where you can only play them in a maximum of 4 positions. So Frank explained to me that his plan now is to play JD Martinez, Mitch Haniger, and Chris Bryant as his outfield every day, with Austin Riley at third and Hunter Dozier at first, and giving him the flexibility to move people around. He also voiced to me that he was concerned that Austin Riley was going to get sent down. And I had to tell him how crazy that thought was. They're finding ways to get this kid's bat in the lineup. Josh Donaldson, Ender Inciarte, they're going to see playing time decrease because this kid's the real deal. And good on you for picking him up. You got to play him. But you got to play Chris Bryant too. And you got to play JD Martinez. So something's got to give. I don't think Frank's done trading yet. So it'll be interesting to see what he does going forward with all of these similarly positioned players. Key players for the week. For Josh, who won, it is Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman hit 310, 394 on base, 4 runs, a double, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, 4 walks, and 3 strikeouts. Eric Hosmer hit 421 with a 450 on base, 5 runs, 2 homers, 5 RBIs. And Asdrubal Cabrera, a name I haven't said yet this year, he only hit 231, only had a 267 on base, 2 runs, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, a steal, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. The reason I gave it to Asdrubal Cabrera It's because Josh won stolen bases. And I felt like I had to highlight one of the guys who got a steal for him. And it was Nico Goodrum. It was Bryce Harper, who I will highlight later. Marcell Ozuna. None of these guys really lit the world on fire. Cabrera had 2 homers. Asdrubal had great years for us in Queens. He has not done well since leaving there. He's only hitting .217 this year. He does have 9 homers and 27 RBIs, which is good. But the rebuilding Rangers probably wanted something better from him. Pitching-wise for Josh, Greg Holland got him a save, and it was the only save of the matchup, so I'm going to highlight him. 2 relief appearances, an inning and 2/3 with a strikeout. Ryan Carpenter had a good start for him. 5 innings, 5 strikeouts, a 1.80 ERA. The start was against the Mets. He did not win. And finally, Kyle Hendricks had a good start for him. Kyle Hendricks, 6 innings, 9 strikeouts. No decision, 3 earned runs. It's just a quality start. The start was against Cincinnati. Josh pitched to a 6.40 ERA and a 1.56 whip. That's ugly. It's bad. For Frank, free agent pickup, Justin Smoke had a good week for him. 3 homers and 6 RBIs, .250 average, .308 on base percentage, 3 runs scored. Hunter Dozier continues to impress. .412 average, .429 on base, 4 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, and 2 walks. And finally, Jonathan Schoop had a good week for him. 200 average, you don't like to see that. .333 on base, but 6 runs, 2 homers, and 4 RBIs. Frank tied runs scored, and I wanted to highlight the guy who scored the most runs on his team, which is Jonathan Schoop. Pitching-wise, before he left, Caleb Smith gave him one last good start. 5 innings, 7 strikeouts, a .360 ERA, and a .60 whip. He has since gone to Nick's team, the Beavers, and shit the bed. He had 3 innings of 5 earned run ball against Washington yesterday. Frankie Montas, who Frank believes is the ace, and he has pitched like it. 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, shutout ball. The start came against Cleveland. And finally, Julio Teheran, who he traded for. Teheran, 10 2/3, 7 strikeouts, a 1.69 ERA, a 1.13 whip. The starts came against San Francisco and St. Louis, 5 and 5 2/3 respectively. The one thing that sticks out, though, is he did have 7 walks. So to have a 1.13 whip despite 7 walks is pretty impressive. I went over the trade. Oh, the one thing that I did want to point out with Frank's pitching staff now, losing Caleb Smith and John Lester, he only had rostered at that point 4 starting pitchers of Montas, Maile, Marco Gonzalez, and Julio Teheran. Only one of those guys had an ERA under 3.5. So it'd be interesting if he could put this together and keep his team above water as far as ERA is concerned. Where am I at? Oh, wow, this is going to be a long pair of videos. So the best starts of the week. Andy's, I was going to say Corbin Martin, but that's not right. Patrick Corbin's complete game shutout and Chris Levy's Lucas Giolito complete game shutouts. Those two definitely win the week. The worst starts of the week. My Merrill Kelly start of an inning and 2/3 with a 21.60 ERA. Jimmy's J Happ start against Baltimore, 3 2/3, 6 earned, 14.73 ERA. James streaming Matt Harvey was 2 2/3, 8 earned runs, a 27 ERA. The worst performance by a top 2-round player goes to Josh's Bryce Harper. I could have highlighted Jose Ramirez for the 3rd week in a row. I didn't want to, so I found somebody else. Bryce Harper hit 179 with a 250 on base. He's just, I don't know what it is. Is he pressing in the new city? Is he just not? Did he have to settle for Philadelphia? Does he not really want to be there? I don't know what it is, but he's certainly not playing up to expectations after signing a $330 million contract. Best streamer of the week goes to James McCloskey of Eric Lauer, 7 innings, a win, 7 strikeouts, and 1 earned. And the best weekly performance is a guy I did not highlight in the weekly breakdown. Mike Haber probably was thinking, how did he not highlight Justin Turner? Justin Turner hit 600 this week with a 611 on-base percentage, 4 runs, 2 doubles, a double, an RBI, a steal, and 2 walks. 600 for the week. Even if that's 6 for 10, that's insane. It's been a fantastic week. It's another fantastic week in the bigs. We still have James McCloskey on top. He will be facing off with Nick the Beavers. Second will be me against Andy Solar Greco. Third is Teoscar named Desire facing off against We Met on Pinder Ben Nisman. Fourth is JD17 Jimmy Dunlap against Josh Haber. Well, I'll be damned. And fifth, Bobby Russo's Angels in the Trout Field taking on Chris Levy. Jose Told a Story. Witness Protection. Jason Ashby takes on Barry Nisman, Kikuchi Kuchi Ku. And the final matchup, I believe, is going to be... Oh, no, there's 2 more. There's James Santangelo and Frank Bucco. And finally, the bottom feeder matchup of the week, Mike Sherman, Kershaw for Passover against Ari Nisman, Bumpin' Uglas. Guys, make it a fantastic week. I will see you 7 days from now.